Not sure if this counts as an RPG horror story, but I once asked a D&D subreddit, I can't remember which one, I deleted the post, about how I could possibly make a half Kenku, half human character. Sort of like how a harpy would look, human head with a torso, bird, everything else. I wasn't actually trying to make like a harpy specifically. I was just using that as an example of how I would want this hypothetical creature to look. For some reason, people got like mad over this, saying I couldn't make a harpy because that's a monster, which, I don't know, man. People make monster characters all the time. I eventually worked out with the DM. The game fell through, I think, sadly. But I was literally just asking about how I would lay out the stats and stuff for a custom race. No idea what made Reddit so mad, but it honestly made me a little hesitant to interact with the Reddit tabletop role-playing game community. I personally thought it was a neat idea. I hope I can use him someday, even if the DM doesn't allow the homebrew. I hope they'd let me make a Kenku and flavor him as half Kenku at least. I know this is totally what is true dimension. There's no post that accompanies this, no screenshots, but the fact of the matter is, Reddit having a meltdown over just a hypothetical fantasy idea is, well...
No. What have you done? What have you done? No, great Reddit, no. You heathen. You violated the sacred text. You violated.
Guys,
what have you done? No.
What the hell is wrong with you? All I said was I was gonna do a little bit of homebrew.
Damn you!
It's believable. We didn't know any of the other players, but had just joined the group after looking for local D&D games. The other players aren't relevant to the story other than one, who I will call the werewolf. They played a werewolf druid who was very emotionally sensitive and a bad habit of just turning wolf whenever he got nervous. My character was a warlock of the Fae and was a very typical arrogant, morally gray sort of character, and like me, she was lesbian and very asexual. She was fascinated by other creatures, especially exotic ones, and the Fae Lord she was sworn to wanted her to bring back samples and trinkets, and sometimes live animals for his amusement. Anyway, the problems began when we were in a dungeon solving some kind of puzzle. We found a prison room with a trapped NPC, and we figured, hey, let's rescue her. My character was interested in her because she was a tiefling and wanted to do the cataloging thing. She was very glad we freed her and became a member of the party, helping us with her knowledge of the dungeon and the enemies that captured her. After we got out, we were all resting, and my character began talking to hers. She was very friendly. Too friendly. See, you guys think this is a bit, but I've seen things on the show. I've seen things. We quickly headed off. One of the other players joked that I finally found a girlfriend. We remained very close for a while until an arc where the party was split and she went with the other half of the group. For a while, I forgot about her until we were reunited and she started acting weird. This tiefling suddenly was overtly interested in my character, like romantically. My character didn't mind the attention, but I was weirded out by this very sudden change. When she asked if anything was wrong, the DM replied that the tiefling missed her after spending so long apart. We were going on a secret mission to scope out an enemy base, and I was going to be alone with her. Before that session, the DM sends me a text asking me how I want this to be. I replied confused, and the DM explained that he wants me and the tiefling to have an intimate moment while we're alone. Obviously, I object, and the DM seems to be okay with that. Seems. Yes, seems. However, when the session begins, she makes very uncomfortable advances on me, and due to some magical circumstances, like some kind of, I don't know, sex pollination situation, this thing happens anyway. Yes, nothing makes me more horny than sneezing in a field of pollen. Good lord, what the fuck? I was hoping to speak nothing of it, and pray the other characters didn't find out. However, after we raided the camp and were looting the enemies, this tiefling could not keep her mouth shut, and just kept on telling everyone about this intimate moment. All the other characters are extremely uncomfortable, but we managed to keep it together until we get back to the tavern we were staying at in the small town. The tiefling tries some more uncomfortable behavior, like trying to share her drink with me and sit in my lap. All of us are baffled by the situation in character, and out of character, everyone but me and my friend think this is like normal? I tell the DM, this is weird. I'm extremely uncomfortable with whatever the hell is going on. And he tells me to bear with it because it's important to the story. Sometimes you really do have to bear down for D&D, though.
Really poor choice of words, Ben. Too soon.
I feel like only 10 people are going to get that reference, and to those 10 people, I love you. Somehow, I doubted it was actually going to be important. We make it a few sessions further and make it to a new town. We go looking for quests, and then we're making idle conversation. The tiefling makes a really gross comment, which I will not transcribe, but it was about my, vag. The werewolf gets too uncomfortable, promptly turning into a wolf and charging into town, smashing things, and this is where I just had enough. I promptly quit the game. My friend followed soon after another string of weird incidents involving her character, and yes, of course, we were the only 2 female players. I love how you kept that detail until the very end. You see, if you told me at the beginning, I would have known everything that was going to happen immediately. I'm very experienced in these stories. But in any case, that excuse of, oh my god, I know you're uncomfortable, but it's very important for the story that happens. It's used all the time by problem DMs. Hell, it's used all the time by just bad storytellers in general. Look, sometimes discomfort is part of the story, but rarely is overt discomfort completely necessary in order to tell the story you're trying to tell. Like, does this intimate situation that the player did not want need to happen? No, it doesn't. Straight up, there is no reason for this to happen. The DM could have respected the player's boundaries and told the same story. But, unfortunately for some people, violating boundaries and making people uncomfortable is part of the shtick for some DMs and storytellers, and we see that in full effect here. Good on you for leaving the game. It wasn't worth it to stay. This video is sponsored by CZEPEKU and their new Kickstarter for Bastions and Guild Halls. Look, I know, I've told you guys about CZEPEKU a lot because they are the best map makers in the entire TTRPG industry with thousands of high-quality maps, tokens, and scenes. However, they've got something brand new for you on top of all that. Bastions and Guild Halls is a really intuitive way to build your own player houses for your TTRPG games. The maps are fully customizable with tons of assets and environments to choose from, letting you build your own layouts and make something that's truly perfect for you. I've already tried the free demo and you should too. And if you like the free demo, then absolutely back the Kickstarter because there's so much more content and it's worth every single cent. If you guys are interested, they could head down to the description down below or to the pinned comment where you can find the Kickstarter for Bastions and Guild Halls. Thank you so much to CZEPEKU for sponsoring today's episode. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. And without further ado, I'm going to turn back into an anime rat so we can get back to the video. This one still irks me. I'm keeping identities hidden. I'll only refer to people by their class names. Our Pathfinder 2nd edition party consisted of a psychic occult librarian, an oracle cultist, a witch toy maker, brand new player, this was their first game ever, and a storyteller bard, our problem player. So, the way this all started was Witch mentioned to our friend group that she'd never played a TTRPG before. So me, being a dungeon master with about 2-3 years of experience and having a crippling addiction to RPGs, volunteered to run a game of Menace under Otari. This is the beginner box for Pathfinder 2nd edition, made to help teach new players and DMs how to play. Everything was going fantastically. The party had a lot of ups and downs, playing as all backliners, so I gave them a DM NPC barbarian just to, give them a helping hand. The game was, emphasis on was, genuinely one of my favorites to run. Everyone played their characters so well, especially our newbie. We were a room away from the boss fight with the leader kobold. I had been planting seeds all the way through the dungeon that led to this point. All they have left is one last single room of kobolds to get through. The party makes quick work of all of them, but notices one of them is still alive, so they interrogate them for more information about the upcoming boss. This was my chance to give them some final hints on what would play out, and about the secret final boss that was coming up. Ah, yes, the Phase 2, baby!
Okay. Oh, thank God. That was a pain in the... I am so doing that to my players next session, oh my god.
The party gets as much info as they can, and then the three of them collectively agree to let the kobold live if they run away and don't come back. But the bard suddenly decided he wasn't going to let that happen. In a sudden and extremely out-of-character moment, as the party turns away to heroically take on the boss, the bard looks back at the kobold, who is covered in oil, they were threatening him during the interrogation, and says, quote, "Your story no longer entertains me, beta male." Sorry. He then throws the torch he was holding over his shoulder and onto the kobold, who goes up in flames and dies because they were already at low health. Immediately, I stop everything and look at Bard asking, "Are you absolutely sure you want to do that? That's extremely out of character. I don't understand why this is happening." He proceeds to tell me that he rethought his backstory without telling me, by the way, and decided his character has some PTSD about people stabbing him in the back after letting them go during his travels, and how maybe he was even a mercenary at some point. Yeah, I have PTSD from being stabbed in the back, so you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stab this guy in the back.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
The other players were clearly unhappy with Bard's choice, but they doubled down and say this is what they want to do. Right away, the psychic says they refuse to continue adventuring with the Bard in fear of being boring and getting killed too. I'd already described the DM NPC as an honor-bound orc, so I remained in character and had them leave as well. The witch and oracle really wanted to see the end of this cool dungeon and tried to pull the two back together, but it was fruitless and the game fell apart and ended right there. I was genuinely angry and didn't want to lash out, so I stepped outside to take a breath and calm myself down before asking Bard to come speak with me in private. I explained how you cannot just change your backstory in the middle of the adventure without telling the DM. It's rude and throws everything out of whack. I want to remind you that this is not like a new player. I have DM'd for Bard and have been a player alongside them before. So this was very much out of complete nowhere, and I told them as much. If it had been a different DM that was running, they might have seen this as like intentional sabotage. Eventually, I seemed to get through to them and they apologized, but I'm still upset about it. Thankfully, my newbie player wasn't turned off from gaming and decided to scrap the game and play a game in their newest homebrew world. This time, I'm being a part of every step in Bard's character creation process, so they can't do that kind of thing again. Wish me luck, and thanks for reading my not-so-horror story. I will say it seems a bit extreme to fold the entire game over this incident. I would stop the game right there and talk to Bard about it without trying to awkwardly continue the game, because if the other players don't like what the Bard did that much, it's worth discussing above table. Like, sometimes people are gonna do controversial things. This happened in an actual play on my YouTube channel. Fall Cosplay and her character went against the wishes of the rest of the party, but one, it was totally in character and made sense for her to do that, and two, it created interesting drama that the whole party was willing to play out. Had the players been actually upset out of game, I would have stopped the game right there and talked to her about it. Of course, with me, that wasn't the case. With this, yeah, I would be a bit more careful. I am glad that you talked to the Bard, though, and they seem to be walking this behavior back. Don't change your backstory mid-campaign. It's bad news for everyone. I don't know why you do that. One of my first campaigns I was in was a Tomb of Annihilation, spoilers for that by the way, game with the DM, who ran my first actual game. We'll call this DM Tim. As I'm figuring out who I'm going to play with, I decide to roll my stats and see if that gives me any inspiration. Now, Tim had a pretty permissive rolling system. 46, drop the lowest 8 times. Drop the lowest 2, then repeat all that and pick your favorite spread. Oh my god, just do point buy at that point, Jesus! But even by that standard, I had basically god tier rolls, 2 18s, and not a single stat below 15. And if he hadn't literally seen all the rolls happen in front of him, Tim probably would have been justified in wondering if I had cheated. Dude, with that nonsensical system, I know he would not have been. So to try and counteract my overpowered monstrosity of a character, I decided to make them someone with what I thought would be some clear role-playing limitations. And from that, and talking with the DM, learned a little bit about Chult, the setting for Tomb. I came up with Asutali? We're gonna go with Asutali. These names, man! Asutali was a Yuan-Ti wild magic sorceress who had been kicked out of her old colony due to one too many magical mishaps, and was venturing into Chult, hoping that she would find some of the others of her kind to live with. Personality-wise, she would probably have gotten a lot of comparisons to Lae'zel from Baldur's Gate 3 if I had made her today. Ruthless, stubborn, chauvinistic, extremely pragmatic, and honest to a fault. She was not subtle about how she saw herself as the group's leader, and kind of the main character of reality, was open about seeing non-Yuan-Ti as lesser beings, and literally referred to them as meat, and did not give a crap about what anyone else thought about her beyond its ability for her to manipulate them. She was also mostly arrow ace, but was quite aware that others found her hot, and was not averse to using her body as a tool. That's so iconic and so me, baby. Don't judge me, I just know what you people like. All of the above sounds like the power character for a horror story on its own, but truth be told, she was an absolute blast to play and seemed like the rest of the table loved her as well. Even ignoring her OP stats, she was the only arcane mage at the table and turned out to be an excellent party face into the ruthless and cutthroatery of the Cholton wilderness. Furthermore, everyone else had a lot of fun verbally sparring with her, and her "I'm the leader and you're all gonna be my servants" mindset happened to mix really well with my IRL tendency to usually just be like the table planner anyway, independent of how smart my character is supposed to be. She was also the only woman in the party, which led to some fun and funny dynamics of its own. All of this got magnified when a new player joined, who I'll call Smith. Before I say anything else, I want to clarify, we like Smith. He was funny as hell, came up with cool characters and played them well, and the two of us meshed well at the table together. I say all of this up front because one of the things that happened with Smith's character after he joined was that he simped for Asutali hard. She, being her arrow ace and Yuan-Ti supremacist self, did not recuperate, but was more than happy to humor him in exchange for him basically being a doting little lapdog that she would always order around, which she did. Constantly, to the delight of the entire group.
This is my stalker. I turned her into an unpaid expendable gopher.
This went on for a while, everything being fine and wonderful, really. Eventually, the party managed to make its way into the titular Tomb of the Nine Gods, and starts going through it with two relevant encounters. The first was that at some point, Smith's character was poofed into non-existence, only to later turn up, telling us about how he got stuck in this weird room with a genie and two black holes. Bro, reality is cooked, okay? I saw the Katańska guy's video! Secondly was that on the third floor of the dungeon, there is this floor-wide puzzle where you get these crystal eyes that at the end unlock this room with a boss fight and a massive heap of treasure. A session ends with us right outside said boss room preparing to go in, and I have to miss that upcoming session. Because of how close Astuli and Smith's characters are at this point, I gave him the go-ahead to run her for me. As I'm driving home from the event that I had to miss the session for, I get a text from my sister, who's also in the campaign by the way, but not relevant to the story, saying that Astuli, my character, has died. Apparently, during the boss fight, there was a point where one of the other party members got stuck in an awful position, so Astuli ran over to him and tried to dimension door him to safety. That apparently triggered a trap within the dungeon, sending Astuli to the genie/black hole room from before, and Smith, thinking that he had figured out how the room worked from his character's prior time there, had Astuli jump into one of the black holes where she was destroyed on the spot. See, this is why you watch the Katańska guy's video. Do your research, guys, come on. So yeah, my character died in a session where I wasn't there as a result of decisions she would not have made, with no saving throws or anything of the sort, based on player information that neither she or I had. I would also learn once I ran the module myself, the way Tim was running that particular trap wasn't even book accurate. It was supposed to stop teleportation spells from being used to leave the dungeon, like teleport, plane shift, etc. But when he was running it, he was stopping all teleportation magic of any kind even inside the dungeon. As I would later figure out, this wasn't the only case of Tim adjusting the mechanics and rules to make it significantly more difficult for the players. He'd botch monster hit points to be double the listed amount, would turn legendary actions into just reactions, which by the way I think could be fine and make monsters more dynamic. That's neither here nor there. Anyway, he would often leave out or underemphasize crucial information when dealing with puzzles or traps. The thing that actually made me leave the group though and never come back was when the level 4 party in Ghost of Saltmarsh got ambushed by a group of bullywugs, only to find out in the middle of combat that they were given the hit points in the triple-digit numbers. But yeah, that's the story of how one of my favorite characters died, and just one more horror story on top of this particular group. Although most of the other cases were a lot less interesting to talk about. In either case, big fan of the channel, and Matt, thanks for reading this quite long story of mine. Look, there's a good reason why Matt Mercer in Campaign 1 of Critical Role was very stern about not letting the party play as Ashley Johnson's character Pike while she wasn't present, especially during deadly situations. Super Geek Mike has talked about this on his Critical Role Demystified series. I recommend you check it out. But look, the point is, in any roleplay heavy game where people are really invested in their characters, it's never ever gonna feel good to kill a character off screen like this, because it is off screen. Yes, you, the DM, and the rest of the party, you were there for the character's death, but what about the player? Like, they're the primary person who's experiencing their character. They care the most. Having the character die while they're not present, I don't think that's ever gonna work. Like, seriously, the black hole room isolates the character anyway. I don't understand why she has to die in that room. Just have her get cut off from the rest of the party and everyone else play as normal. And then you can, like, break her out later or something. I don't know. There are other solutions to this problem. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed and you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our 10th Tomb actual play. We mentioned it earlier. It's an awesome show with a phenomenal cast and wonderful story. Linked up in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. You'll also want to leave a comment to let me know you are loyal to the tavern. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave the comment black hole to let me know. Oh, and of course, finally, if you want to support us directly, then head over to our Patreon or head over to our merch store. These things really help the channel out. In essence, like, comment, subscribe, support. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.
I actually poked myself. That didn't hurt, but I got scared for a second there because I forgot whether or not this is sharp.